Hello everyone, Jordan here. Big surprise! We have returned to Minecraft. Now I know you have many questions regarding what this means with the channel, what I will be doing, and I'll answer all of your questions in a little side commentary at the end of the video. But for those that do not care, I'm going to start with a showcase of this aircraft, and then I'll include a timestamp in the description, and I think with YouTube's latest new features, I can show where I'll discuss other portions of this video dedicated to Minecraft and where that will be with the channel. But as for now, we are going to be showcasing this 747-400 built in 3:1 scale, which is quite different compared to a lot of previous scales in Minecraft that I built in. As you all are aware, I used to build in 2:1, 1.5:1, even 1:1, and at some point when I first started making Minecraft videos, I used to kind of just eyeball things and they weren't very to scale. But finally, we're starting a new scale where we try to keep things in correct proportion with their dimensions. Enough of the boring talk though, let's get on with the aircraft. Just a quick side note though, there are many more liveries we've made for this aircraft and many more variants of the 7.4 that we have made. However, on that note, rather than produce a 40-minute video showcasing all of the features and all the liveries, because all of the liveries we did make have custom interiors, little differences here and there. I feel like if I really want to get the detail of one reg, I can just do that in one video, maybe make it 5 minutes long, 8, 10, rather than stretch it out to 40, and I'll just be doing that. So, long story short, what this means is you can expect to see separate videos for separate liveries, because I really want to dive into the details of one livery, and I really don't want to drag you guys out through a 40-minute long showcase, because in my opinion, that's just way too long. Alright, enough of the boring chit-chat, let's begin with the showcase. This livery is based off of Delta Alpha Bravo Victor Papa, a Lufthansa 747 manufactured in 1997 as a 747-430. This aircraft actually is continuing to fly in this livery, and I find that very interesting because I believe a few times while I'm flying out of Denver, I'll still see these aircraft flying in this livery, which is great. So, let's begin. At the front of the aircraft, as you can see, this is in 3:1 scale, so it's much larger than our previous builds. Again, if I get on the ground, it's very tall compared to our previous builds. Now, as you can see at the front of the aircraft, we have the windows over here, and as you can see, there's some interior details. We'll get to that in a moment. As we go to the L1 door, we have the little Lufthansa text right here for the specific aircraft. Now, I believe Lufthansa actually removed the aircraft text, and it simply just says 747-400. Traditionally, in the older liveries for Lufthansa on the 747s, they had specific names for their aircraft, and I believe they do continue to do this, but for this specific reg, they don't have it. We have the Lufthansa text, we have the Lufthansa logo, as well as the Star Alliance logo. As you're aware, Lufthansa is part of Star Alliance. Furthermore, we go to the L2 door, and this also gives me a moment to kind of bring up this little line right here. Now, on the real aircraft, this is red, and sometimes they'll have two of them, sometimes they'll have one. This kind of depends. But these are usually jetway markers, so that a gate agent operating the jetway kind of has a reference point to line up to when they're putting the jetway in. As we go over, we have a little blanked windows right here because, as some people have really put it, there is a super galley right here because they have a lot of galley equipment right there. We have more windows. We have the oval wing exit. We have more windows, and what's interestingly enough though is that there isn't an exit outline design right here. You think there would be, considering, you know, on pretty much every other Boeing aircraft or any Airbus aircraft for that matter, where there is an oval wing exit, they have a escape path outline, but on the 7.4 it does not, which is interesting because this exit is really, I'm supposedly assuming, used as a last resort, thus is not necessary for that. In comparison to other aircraft such as maybe a 7.3, where that exit, the middle oval wing exits, are critical because, you know, there's only 8 exits and those make up 4 of them. Anyway, enough of that. Let's continue on. Let's go to the rear of the aircraft. We have the Lufthansa.com text, and we also have the registration and German flag at the rear of the airplane. Furthermore, we also, this block should not be here, my apologies. But furthermore, as you can see, we have the rear exit right here, and then Lufthansa, for all of their static ports, wicks, and antennas, they paint them red on their 7.4s, which is really interesting. I believe on some of their other aircraft, they paint them or leave them white, but on the 7.4s, they're red. Anyway though, we go to the underbelly of the aircraft, or the rear of the aircraft. We have the stabilizer trim. On the 7.4, it kind of varies. Sometimes it's gray, sometimes it's white. In this instance, we've made it gray, but on most times it's white. I just did this for aesthetic purposes. If we go to the aft of the aircraft, we have the APU right here. And we also have the horizontal stabilizers with the little markings right here. The horizontal stabilizer tabs, or the elevators that physically move up and down, are right here and marked out by this little stone. and we also have the very tall vertical stabilizer. Now, what I can't necessarily add in this scale, which is something I would add in maybe 5.5 to 1 or larger, is the fact that this the rudder is split into 2 pieces, which has caused some problems at some point with the 7.4. And this has been resolved, of course, but it's interesting how it's a 2-piece assembly. And as you can see from later Boeing designs, this is something that they are not very favorable of, as the 777 initially had a 2-piece rudder in a little bit, and they ended up downgrading that to just a 1-piece rudder on the 777X. So it's a design thing that was carried over into the Dash 8, but it's not a favorable design, if that makes any sense. Anyways, on that note, though, we can continue on with the aircraft. As we go to the the other side of the aircraft, you can see we have the cargo bays. You have the bulk cargo hold right there, the rear cargo bay, the very massive landing gear assembly of the aircraft, followed by the forward cargo bay right here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a tour of the forward cargo bay, actually. And before I do that, let me turn on night vision so I can see what I'm doing. So let's take a gander inside. Nope. Here we go. Here is the forward cargo bay of the aircraft. It's very large compared to some of our smaller aircraft that we've built, so there's plenty of space. This holds large pellets that go all the way down, and yeah, this goes pretty considerably far into the wing box too, which is interesting because you don't really think about this with aircraft design, how far these go, but it can hold lots of cargo in this bay. If we go to the aft cargo bay, it's very interesting because these two actually connect into each other. So as you can see right here, we have the little belt loader for that, and then the door right there for that. But very large cargo bay, as you can see. Anyways, on that note, we can come down to the rear landing gear assembly. There are 16 wheels down here, quite large, 18 in total, including the nose gear. And if we come in here, we can see the the landing gear assembly. Now, these two are actually connected. You would think that they would be blocked off, but they're not, which is very a little odd, because these two, the landing gear on the right and left, are blocked off from each other, but these all of these wheels are connected into the same assembly bay. Furthermore, we have the landing gear strut, which, holds out and pulls the landing gear and retracts it when the landing gear is retracted. We have the beacon light. We also have some vents and some little ports on the underside of the 7.4. Many Boeing airliners have little indents on the underside. The 7.3 family, 7.5, 777s, all of them have these little indents, which we thought were very cool and add a lot of detail and immersion to the aircraft. As we go out onto the wing, we have the General Electric CF6-80 engines. It's a very long serial for these specific variants. It doesn't matter. They're pretty much the same as all the other CF6s. But a very interesting feature about Lufthansa liveries is that they paint their spinners white with a black little spinner design, which is kind of inverted of what everybody else does. Every other airline pretty much has a black spinner with white decals, but Lufthansa have inverted that, and as of now I just have that marked right here, so that's a little interesting there. There are 4 of these. Each of these generate around 50,000 pounds of thrust, and yeah. Alright, continuing at the exterior portion of the aircraft, we have the winglets, and the winglets have quite a lot of history with them in terms of this aircraft. Now, as the story goes, the 747-300 was, it's very similar to the 747-400, almost identical, really, in terms of the external portion of the aircraft. However, as time progressed and the mid to late 80s started to roll around, as well as the 90s, airlines didn't necessarily want an aircraft of this caliber with this price tag with technology as dated as the 747-300 had. So, with that being said, Boeing ends up, making the 747-400, and they attach a bunch of technological improvements and airframe improvements and things such as winglets, which are great for, fuel burn and whatnot. Now, this was, to really show Boeing's testament to, hey, we're going to modernize this aircraft so it's worth its price tag. And this trend of let's modernize the 747 really was continuing and starting to uptick, as in the mid-90s, Boeing was very serious about launching the 747-500, 600, and 700, but of course never did due to wailing customer support and a very high price tag at the time of approximately, I believe, $200 to $400 million, which again at that time as well was the industry was doing with how, the industry was, handling with the crisis. Not very appealing, but as you can see though, the 747-400, as I was saying, long story short, features a lot of improvements over the 300, even though they're pretty much nearly the same aircraft in terms of capacity and everything else. But it features, a glass cockpit and a lot of little changes that really modernize the aircraft. More so, we have static wicks at the rear of the aircraft. We have the fuel valve in case you need to dump fuel. We have the ailerons right here, which are massive. And then we have the flaps and the spoilers right here. Now, another interesting fact about Lufthansa is that they paint their aircraft wings white. Now, realistically, on the underside of the wings, this is all gray. However, I can't necessarily do that in Minecraft because towards the end of the wing, it gets to one block, and I can't change that, so I have to stick with either all white or all gray, and I believe all white is a better color for Lufthansa, since, you know, they actually have white wings. Now, this little black marking is the no-step zone, which is usually filled in on most airlines, but Lufthansa does not fill it in. But anyways, continuing on the other side of the aircraft, this is also filled in. We have more we have more doors, and more importantly, they also keep this little stripe on the right side as if there was going to be a jet bridge docking to this door, which they don't do, but I believe in some hypothetical situation, in case they ever needed to dock something to this door, they have a little marker to make sure they don't bump or scrape the aircraft. But anyways, we have little text, we have the doors, we have airfoil extensions, we have the nose landing gear assembly right here as we can go in, as you can see from there, and then we have the landing lights and whatnot. Now, that pretty much concludes the external portion of the aircraft showcase, and now we can go inside. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we've just boarded the aircraft, and we are currently at the L1 assembly of the aircraft. Now, there are business class seats down here, followed by premium economy and then just economy, but we're going to tour down here first and then move to the upper deck. As you can see, we have a galley right here with some galley carts, and we have some stoves and furnaces all around here for the flight crew to attend the passengers. We have the Lufthansa business class right here with this signature wooden design. The seats are the seats are a dark gray, but it's interesting what Lufthansa does with this, really. It's a dark gray mixed with black wood and light colors. It's very nice. We have the Lufthansa logo over there, and then continuing, we have more, premium economy, not premium economy, business class over here. And because this is actually like a 222 assembly, I decided to put the lie flat seats on the outer portion of it, just to kind of have some detail. I think it looks great. It's a very comfortable seat design, as you can see from a lot of trip reviewers. But lie flat seat, we have the business class seat in the upright position over here, and again, the Lufthansa logo. Here is the L2 exit, which is the most common exit people usually board and deplane from right here. We have a flight attendant jump seat. We also have a little wall frame. And as you can see, this is what I mean kind of by a super galley. We have a lavatory right here, and then we have some extra space over here. So anyways, this is just a big assembly right here where you can go upstairs into the upper deck, but we'll get to that in a minute. Right here we have premium economy. Now what Lufthansa does is they outline their seats either in yellow or blue to determine which type of economy seat it is. This is outlined in yellow because it is premium economy, and it is a 2-3-2 seating arrangement, as you can see from the from the in-flight entertainment screens. We also have a little bit of a glass divider right here, and then we go back into regular economy with a 3-4-3 seating layout, as you can see, and identified by the blue. This standard economy goes throughout the rest of the aircraft, as we can go to the back. We have another little galley space for the flight crew. And then we get to the aft assembly. Now this is something very interesting that I just don't recall seeing this when I walked through the 7-4, is that they have a lavatory here and a lavatory here, and you just cross right over. I thought that would be very frank and very odd. Also, another really cool thing, especially with some other airlines such as Delta, there is no bulkhead right here. It just goes straight to the rear galley, which I thought would be very odd. You would think they would put a bulkhead here on airlines such as Delta, but they didn't. Interesting. But as we go to the forward section of the aircraft, we can get ready to go to the upper deck. So, it takes a little while to get up there. So, as we can get to the stairs, we can head upstairs. And here is another galley for the flight crew to do work. It's a very large galley, in fact, so it serves all the passengers here as well as the flight crew. We have a little flight attendant jump seat as well here. It's a little space here for some storage. And then we can get to the upper deck with the same premium economy as the lower deck, but it just, honestly, sitting in the upper deck of a 7-4 is probably the most luxurious thing you can do. Aside from maybe in the very front where you can see, you know, all ahead of you. But, as you can see, the same design, we have the lie flat seats with the business class seats right here. The wooden design, you know, kind of a mix of black, white, and dark brown. Very, very nice use of a color palette there. We have the upper deck exits right here. These are not really functional except in an emergency, but hence no windows, but, you know, you get the idea. And then we go through here. Now we have two lavatories right here, another lav right here, and then we can step into the flight deck of the 7-4. As you can see right here, the captain sits here, the first officer sits here. We have flight engineer stations right here for extra crew members. Anyway, we have the main panel, the main control panel for the autopilot functions, the divider. The foot pedals are down there. We have the FMCs right here, throttle quadrant, lower pedestal where they have the telephone and all of things like that. And then we have the overhead panel right here, and as you're probably aware, the Boeing overheads in this era usually have a lighter shade going out and a darker shade in the middle to identify what's important and whatnot. Back here is also the circuit breaker, but we haven't really identified that with anything, but, you know, you get the idea. Another interesting thing to add is that a lot of Boeing airliners, from the 737 onwards, have little stations right here where they house all their flight manuals and whatnot. If you're in a 737, you just have to go to the very back and pull it out of the bottom, whereas in the 74, 75, 76, 777, 78, all of that, they have little shelves right here where you can just pull them out, boom, flight manuals. And before I forget, there's also a few details on the top of the aircraft I'd like to go over. We have a little emergency escape right here cut out for the flight crew, beacon light, airfoil extensions, a SATCOM antenna which Lufthansa actually paints gray, some more airfoil extensions, and then you just get back to the rear tail assembly. And now this portion of the video I'm going to kind of just improv and describe how the channel will be moving forward from here, and just so you guys can get a rough idea of what to expect in terms of Minecraft content. So, I understand I have not uploaded in over a month, and that's somewhat intentional because roughly around 2-ish months ago, we all kind of, people such as me, Alex, Michael, Dush, we kind of just like got together, as well as, Caden, we all kind of got together and said, hey, you know what, building Minecraft a while ago was actually kind of fun. You guys want to see about doing that again? And we all just collaboratively came together and started making some stuff. So that was what we've done, and we've made a lot of aircraft. It's surprising how many aircraft we've made, and we've had plenty of liveries, plenty of aircraft, so we have a lot of content that we're very excited to show you guys and get forward with. But just to make sure everything's clear and everyone's on the same page, all of these builds have like absolutely no affiliation with Aero Team. Like, we've pretty much diverged at this point. It's like we've come to a crossroad and whatnot, so there is no affiliation. We don't use their texture pack. This is a modified version from an old texture pack that I used. And we don't talk with them, we don't work with them, they don't influence our decisions, and neither do we influence their decisions. So everything you see on them is like a completely separate entity of that, and it's what we're doing here. Furthermore, as you can see, this is in 3:1, which is a much larger scale than what we used to build in, and we usually try to fit in a lot of detail into these aircraft. So because of that, things such as airports, tutorials, and things like that likely will not happen, at least for a very long time, as it's simply just not a concern to us at any point in time. And furthermore, the aircraft are usually too large to do that, and it's too time consuming to do that. To put these numbers into comparison, just so you can kind of understand where we're coming from, the Aero Team recently released a tutorial on the 777X in 1.5:1 scale. Our 777 is twice as large. Their tutorial took 4 months of planning, recording, scripting, all of that, and it is over 4 hours long. Imagine doing a plane twice as large. It's just not logistically worth our time or anything like that. But as you're probably aware, you might be wondering, what about downloads, texture packs, all of that? Right now, we're kind of just going to focus on making some planes, making some videos, and then we'll see about how to handle all of that later. We're kind of taking things one step at a time, not really trying to be a business or anything, or try to push out anything else here. I realistically would love to get back to my original roots of the channel, where I just build something in Minecraft, I make a quick video on it, hoo-ha-hee, whole world works, nothing else really, more or less. Maybe a download, maybe something later, I don't know. But yeah, I'm very excited to get back into Minecraft. There is a lot. I cannot understate that. We have a lot of aircraft, a lot of liveries, and a lot of stuff that we are very excited to show you guys and get forward with on the channel. So expect more frequent uploads. I will continue to upload flight sim content, as I do actually fly real world airplanes now, and flight sim is a really great tool in terms of learning things and getting knowledge, and a lot of the ground school from flight sim does actually apply in real world flying, which is why I kind of still fly. And that's also why I was using flight sim so often in that period, because I was going through a lot of the ground school courses, and it's really cool when you can, hey, learn something in ground school and it works in flight sim and in real life. It's great. So, but I digress. Long story short, expect more flight sim content as well as more Minecraft content in the future. Will hopefully be a lot more things. The main scale will be 3:1. I don't really see the point in going down into 2:1 or 1.5 or 1:1 or 1:2, because that's where all the drama happens and all of that, and I really don't want to get involved in that. Fun fact, we specifically chose 3:1 for this reason. And yeah, but I'm just very excited, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next episode. I'm Jordan. See you in the next episode.